Welcome to our channel. Today's story is more than just a story. It reminds us of something we have all forgotten. Nothing is impossible. Not when your heart is stubborn, not when your dream burns hotter than your excuses. Today we share the emotional, strong, and unforgettable journey of one boy. He did not come from a big city. He was not rich. He had no support. He had nothing but one thing: a dream that refused to die. This is not only a story, this is a fight against fate. This is the tale of a boy who rose from night guard to software engineer. This story will shake you, it will lift you, and it will change how you see your own life. After this story, you will never say again, "I can't do it." I promise you that every second of this story is worth it. My name is John. I was born in a dusty small town where people had no dreams. They just went along. The streets were loud, the houses tight, and the sky seemed to hold no room for us. I grew up in a middle-class family that no movie would show. We were not poor, but we were always close to it. My dad was a tired man. He worked 12 hours a day as a mechanic, grease on his hands, his back always bent. He never complained, yet you could feel the silence in his eyes. My mom was the backbone of everything. She rose before sunrise, packed lunches, paid the bills, and made us smile even when she skipped meals. We lived in a rented one-room home. We had a small fan, a dripping faucet, and a dream in my chest that felt too big. Sometimes, when everyone slept, I sneaked into the bathroom and stared into the mirror. I searched for signs of greatness on my face, for something that set me apart. My grandma once told me I had the eyes of a king. But in the bare bulb's flicker, I saw a skinny boy with big ears and one brow scar. Each night I stood by the window, watching families cruise in shiny Cadillacs, laughing, music loud, windows down. I was not jealous, but I wondered how people could live like that. What had they done right that we had not? Would I ever sit in a car like that? While other kids played outside, I had a different passion. I walked 2 miles to a tiny internet cafe and watched screens, code, digital worlds, and people creating. The owner, Mrs. Weber, a gray-haired woman with thick glasses, let me watch free when few customers came. "The little programmer is back," she teased me kindly. Back then, I first heard the word software developer. To me, it felt like magic. These people used no tools, only their thoughts. They created things out of nothing. In that moment, I decided to become one of them. I spent hours taking notes, writing unknown terms, and spotting patterns in the flashing code. I had no computer, no home internet, poor English, and no contacts. Yet I still believed. I believed in something I could not touch yet. Mom even sewed a bag for my growing stack of printed articles rescued from the cafe trash. But dreams do not pay rent. In our small apartment, money talks grew more common and more hushed. One night I heard my parents whisper, "He is a good boy, but we have no money for college. Maybe he should just take a job and help us." Our walls were paper thin, and their words slid through the dark to me. I did not cry or shout, yet something inside me cracked. How can you chase a dream when your own parents are sinking? That thought haunted me for days. I watched Dad limp home from the shop, and Mom sew clothes late at night. At 17, I made a choice that changed everything. I set my dream aside and put on a security uniform. The brown uniform was 2 sizes too big. The security chief, Mr. Miller, showed me how to fix the tie. "You'll grow into it," he said, patting my shoulder with more pity than hope. I became the boy who once dreamed of shaping the future, and now guarded it from outside. Every evening I stood before a tall glass tower. Inside, people in cool offices wrote code, built apps, and lived the life I had only watched. Sometimes I saw them at whiteboards, waving and laughing, wizards I would never join. Outside I stood still in the cold air, wearing a dull brown uniform and gripping a wooden baton. The nights were long and lonely, broken only by a nod from a late worker leaving the building. Every night I touched the crumpled code in my pocket and said, "John, this is not the end. You are not stuck. You have only pressed pause." At night, I stood silent before those glowing offices. While the world slept, I was wide awake, but not only to guard. I stayed awake to watch, to learn, and to build a future no one expected for me. The building I guarded was full of software engineers, people who had everything I wanted. Each night they strode past me, laptops in backpacks, badges on chests, purpose burning in their eyes. And to them I was only the guard. Some did not even look at me. Some only nodded. None of them knew I was watching. Not them, but the life I wanted. I had a small used smartphone. You could not play games on it. Its battery lasted 2 hours. Yet it had one thing I needed: YouTube. During each break I sat in a corner of the lot and searched. What is coding? How do you become a software developer? What is JavaScript or HTML for beginners? Sometimes the videos took many minutes to load. Sometimes I understood nothing. Yet I never stopped, because each video felt like a key to a door still locked to me. No Wi-Fi. At night I used data to download free coding PDFs and read them by candle. I slept 4 hours a day. My eyes burned, my head hurt. But my dream kept whispering, "John, if you quit now, you will never forgive yourself." People laughed at me. My relatives said, "He is only a guard, accept it." My friends said, "You are not smart enough for software." Dad met my eyes at dinner and said, "Son, some dream, others survive. We need money." I did not argue. I only nodded. But inside, I made myself a promise. One day I will show you that survival is not the only choice. One night it became too much. I had not slept for 2 days. I could not read a single line of code. I was hungry, tired, and lonely. Under the office lights I stood, baton in hand, crying quietly. Tears hit my uniform because the goal felt too far, too high. My eyes burned from hours of staring at the screen. Letters and numbers blurred like a foreign language I would never master. I whispered, "Is it truly impossible for someone like me?" That night a man left the office early. He was one of the engineers, young, confident, clean-shaven. His hands were spotless, nails trimmed, hands that had never fought to survive. He saw me sitting with a notebook and stopped. "What are you doing?" he asked. His voice was not condescending, but curious, as if I were a puzzle. I looked up and said, "I'm trying to learn coding." The words felt heavy, like confessing a forbidden dream. He paused, then smiled. "That's brave, man. Really brave." He did not laugh. He did not ignore me. He respected it. That single moment, that single line, changed everything. It proved I was not crazy. I was simply early. From that day, my energy returned, stronger, sharper, angrier. I studied even harder. I began rising during daylight just to read more. The sunbeams through my small window became new friends. I stopped caring what other people said. I stopped waiting for support. I became my own teacher, motivator, and coach, knowing nothing is impossible, yet everything starts lonely. My daily life was brutal. Night shifts, coding lessons, no college, no mentor, no one to talk with. At times, the loneliness felt thick enough to touch, like a blanket separating me from the world. I was in a fight no one knew was making me bleed. After months of self-study, I decided to build something. A simple website, only HTML and CSS. I spent 2 full weeks writing the code. Sometimes I did not sleep after work. That is how hungry I was. My fingers kept typing even when my mind faded from exhaustion. Each line of code felt like a rung on a ladder toward a sky I could not yet picture. Then, with shaking hands, I clicked run. It crashed. The screen turned white. Error. I tried again, nothing. Everything I had worked on was gone. I had missed 1 line of code, a simple mistake. And just like that, 2 weeks of hope vanished. For 2 weeks I sat at a computer after every shift, eyes burning while coworkers relaxed. That night I did not go home. I sat on the cold, concrete steps of the building I guarded. Head down, eyes red, heart broken. The night sky above me was clear and uncaring. I kept thinking, maybe they are right. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe some people stay guards forever. My uncle's words rang in my mind. A dreamer like your dad will never make it. I did not feel like a hero. I felt like a ghost, unseen and small in the great machine of the world. 1 week later, Dad gave me an envelope, worn and creased as if carried for days. Inside was a brochure from a local factory seeking full-time workers. The corners were bent, and the colors faded. He spoke in a low, almost sorry voice. They pay more each month, no night shifts, maybe better for you. His eyes avoided mine, fixed on peeling paint behind me. I did not get angry, I understood him. He did not kill my dream. He was just trying to feed the family, as always, with a bent back and tough hands. That evening, I walked back to my small room with the squeaky bed and shaky desk. One clear thought filled me like morning light. If I quit now, I will spend my life explaining why I did not try harder. I gave no speech, posted no words, and did not cry again. I opened my laptop again and rewrote the code, line after slow line. I checked every semicolon, every letter. I tested block after block until my fingers went numb. I learned the hard way, through each error and every frustration. You can fail and quit, or fail and grow smarter. The second time, the website worked. It was small, ugly, simple, but it worked. To me, it was my Cadillac, my triumph, my first step into another world. Now I held proof I could do it, solid like a stone in my hand. So I made a brave choice, maybe the bravest of my life so far. I had no degree, no certificate, no contacts, and rough English. Yet I sent over 80 applications, each one a seed of hope. And guess what? I got only rejections, each a small stab, yet never fatal. Some never replied, their silence louder than any no. Some said I was underqualified, in polite form emails. Some laughed, not openly, but between the lines of their answers. But one company, just one among all the others, replied. Their email read, "Your path is unusual. Let's talk." 5 words that changed my life. That single reply was my gate. Not to the goal, but to the next level of war. For 7 days I prepared, practicing before the mirror. I watched interview videos. I wrote answers into a notebook and repeated every sentence countless times. My fingers grew sore from writing. my voice hoarse from practice. In my dreams, I answered questions no one had asked. When the day came, I wore my guard uniform because I owned no formal shirt. The uniform smelled of sweat and cheap soap, of long nights and lost hopes. The collar button pressed against my throat like a silent blame. The interviewer looked at me and asked, "Tell me about yourself." His eyes traveled over the uniform, paused on the company patch on my chest. I gave no fancy answer. I simply spoke the truth. I work as a guard. Each night I learn coding because I want to become something my neighborhood has never seen. My hands shook under the table, yet my voice stayed firm. 5 seconds of silence filled the room. I heard the clock tick, the air hum, my blood rush. Then he said, "You are not what we expected, but you are exactly what we need." They hired me as an unpaid intern. The papers I signed were worth more than any paycheck I had ever earned. It was the first time I entered a tech office not as a guard, but as a learner. That was the moment. I was still poor, still tired, still unsure. Now I counted my coins twice before buying a coffee, but now I had a chair, a desk, a laptop that was not mine. The keyboard under my fingers felt like an instrument I could finally play. The real dream was this. For the first time, I did not just watch the world. I felt part of it. The glass walls I once stared through were now doors I could walk through. I remember that first day clearly. Morning sun poured through big windows, painting golden squares on the floor. I entered through the main door, not the guard booth. No baton in hand, no uniform on my back, just a cheap shirt and fire inside. I had ironed that shirt 3 times the night before, until the collar lay perfect. People who once passed me without a glance now sat beside me in meetings. They nodded when I spoke, as if my words suddenly had weight. But it was not easy. Technical words hit me like hail, and sometimes I studied twice as long at night to keep up. They gave me a desk, a computer, a team. The desk sat in a corner, the computer was slow, and the team lacked ideas for me. Suddenly I stood inside the dream I once watched from the parking lot. But dreams are not always gentle. They are sharp, and they cut you if you are not ready. Each day felt like a fight with a new opponent, each task like a puzzle without hints. But I had not practiced 7 days to quit at the first barrier. Each day I fought the fear of being called a fake. I was unsure about my English and how I spoke. I felt shame about my cheap clothes, my past, my need to prove myself. My teammates held degrees from famous universities framed in gold. They owned certificates with their names in fancy letters. They grasped concepts fast, as if using a tongue unknown to me. Me? I Googled terms in a restroom stall at lunch so I would not look dumb. My hands often shook over the keyboard while I chased their pace. One day a senior engineer asked at lunch, twirling his pricey pen, "Where did you study? Which college?" The room felt suddenly silent. Maybe the chatter stopped, or maybe my mind muted it. I hesitated, my sandwich turning dry, and said, "I didn't study. I used to be a night guard." The silence that followed felt like a storm on open land. Some looked impressed, their brows lifting, while others seemed puzzled, as if I spoke another language. One man only nodded and walked off, his chair scraping loud. That day I realized something while reading their faces. The world may crack a door open for you. You still must prove you deserve to stay inside. That night I could not sleep. Moonlight cast long shadows across my tiny room as I tossed. I drilled interview questions until my voice went hoarse. I watched advanced tutorials until my eyes burned. I reread docs and took free courses with broken captions because rest was not allowed. It was time to grow unbreakable, hard like the concrete I once patrolled. I quit comparing what others had and focused on what I could do. I stopped explaining where I came from and started showing where I would go. After 3 months of internship, always first in and last out, I got a small task. Fix a bug in a live product. The bug was complex, a maze of code and logic. Others had tried and failed. Their frustration still hung in the air. My boss, with more pity than faith, said, "Try if you want, no pressure." I spoke no reply. Words stuck in my throat. I took the code home on a USB stick that felt heavy. I studied 2 days without a break. Neighbors might have thought I vanished. I traced the bug like a detective on a tough case. I read forums until letters blurred, ran tests, hit dead ends, cried from fatigue. I kept trying until my fingers went numb, and finally I fixed it. The manager said little when I delivered the fix. He just gave a small smile and passed my code to the CTO. That evening I left the building, cool night air on my hot skin. I looked up at the first stars and whispered, "See, I told you I won't stay outside forever." For the first time in years, I felt I deserved to be inside. A few weeks later, my internship became a paid job. It was not much, only a few $100s. But when I saw the note on my bank app, I cried. This money was not just a wage, it was proof. Proof that my pain was not useless. My nights were not wasted, my fire was not foolish, my dream was not impossible. After many months, I went back home. Same house, same dripping faucet, same small kitchen. But something felt different. When Dad saw me, he asked nothing. He only said, "You look different." I opened my bag and handed him my first check. He did not cry, yet his hands shook. He looked at me and said words I will never forget. "I thought your dream was too big. Maybe I was just too tired to believe in it." There was no party, no big post online. But inside me, a war had ended. I was no longer the boy at the gate. I was now part of the future. Years passed. The guard uniform that once wrapped my pain now lay folded in my closet, untouched but never forgotten. Today, I do not sit at a desk as a guard. I am a full-time software engineer at one of the world's top companies. It is not a small shop, not a temp role. I now write code that reaches millions. I lead teams that build global products. I mentor interns who once sat where I sat. I walk through airports, laptop in my bag, with a steady step. And when I look in the mirror, I do not see a genius. I see a fighter. Sometimes I visit the old building I once watched. I stand at the gate where I once held a stick. I watch a new guard, sleepy and still, walk in unseen. I smile at him because I know another silent dream may live inside that uniform. One night, while coding late, I got a call from Dad. His voice was soft. "Today I showed everyone at work your photo and said, 'That's my son, a software developer.'" He paused and said, "You made me proud, John. More than that, you made me believe again." I could not speak. I only cried. For the first time, my dream saved not just me, it healed my family. I began to write my story down. Not to be famous, but to leave proof for kids like me. I called it The Boy Who Stood Outside, because that was me. A boy outside the world, staring through glass, believing he might, just might, find a way in. Do you know what the real lesson is? It is not about getting rich. It is not about proving haters wrong. It is not about success. It is about not letting the world say your dream is not yours. Because I have learned this. Talent helps. Money helps. Support helps. But real power lives in this, a mind that refuses to quit, a heart that stands up again and again, a soul that does not care how long it takes. Now, after all these years, my life looks different. The boy who once counted coins now earns a salary he thought impossible. Not luxury, not millions, but enough to breathe. Enough to stand tall. Enough to say, I made it this far. With my first real paycheck, I bought no fancy clothes. I did not brag. I bought a fan, a bed for Dad, a phone for Mom, and food without checking prices. That moment when Mom smiled without worry, that was richer than any car. Years later, I bought my first car, nothing special. Holding the keys, I remembered the boy who watched shiny cars pass and wondered if life chose him. That day, life chose me. Not from luck, not from ease, but because I refused to quit when things were hard. And then I understood the truth. Struggles change you quietly. Success announces you loudly. Now you have heard the story. A boy who had nothing and proved nothing is impossible. Yet this is not only a motivational tale. It is not fiction. It is history. I want to show real people who felt pain, were mocked, and were told they could not win. Yet they changed the world. Neil Armstrong, the first human to step on the moon. Did you know someone once told him that space travel was impossible? He did not listen. He did not just touch the moon. He walked on it. Albert Einstein. As a child, he could not speak well until he was 4. His teachers said he would never succeed. Yet he changed physics forever because greatness needs no permission. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times while making the light bulb. When people laughed, he said, I did not fail. I only found 1,000 ways that do not work. Today the world sees light because one man refused to stay in the dark. Listen closely, my friend. People will try to stop you. They will say, you are not smart enough. You are too late. You come from the wrong place. That dream is unreal. When they speak, look them in the eye and say, be quiet. This is my life, my path, my dream, not yours. Yes, tough moments will come. Yes, there will be days when your hands shake and your heart breaks. Yes, you will cry alone. Yes, the world will ignore you. But guess what? The world ignores you until it cannot ignore your results. Remember that, my friend. Today is the time to fight, but tomorrow will be the time to win. So do not cry because it is hard. Do not quit because it is lonely. Do not stop because progress is slow. Get louder and get better. Get obsessed because nothing is impossible. And if nobody believes in you, believe in yourself even more. This is not just a video. This is a wake-up call. If this story makes your heart race and reminds you who you are, then like and share. Leave a comment below. I will never quit. Remember to subscribe. This channel is not here to entertain you. It is here to rebuild you. Nothing is impossible. Now go and prove it.